here at St. Anne's Place, part of Haven Housing. They're about to announce some grants, some broadband grants from ConnectedMN. We'll be hearing from the governor and from Monica Nilsson.
I'm good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking a little time on this beautiful September day to join us here at St. Anne's Place. We're out here today to highlight, I think, a really good, true Minnesota story. I'm not telling anybody anything. It's been a challenging 6 months. Minnesota's had to do some deep soul searching, but during that time, it's given us the opportunity to really highlight the best of what Minnesota has to offer. So earlier this year, we came together with a group of partners to talk about Connected Minnesota, and I want to make sure I get all the names here. These were the founders and kind of the heart of this. Best Buy, Comcast, Blandon Foundation, St. Paul, Minnesota Foundation, and the Minnesota Business Partnership, Charlie Weaver, and our largest business community. And the purpose of this is when we moved to distant learning for our students, we knew that there was a significant gap already existed in our education system, and we knew that it would be exacerbated by asking our kids to go home and distance learn without the equipment and without the connectedness. And that group of folks that I just talked about, and some of them you're gonna hear from, stepped up in a business, a nonprofit, and working in conjunction with Kathy Tenbrooks and the folks at Minnesota Housing, with Aaron Bailey over at our children's cabinet, put together the capacity and are announcing about $2.1 million in grants, and these happened early on, that connected place like St. Anne's Place. And you're going to hear from Andrea Wood right after me, from she's Social Impact Director, Vice President over at Best Buy. Folks who knew how this worked got together and thought this through to get the technology in the hands of kids to make sure that that gap didn't get any bigger. And we're here at St. Anne's Place, part of Haven Homes, and Monica you're going to hear from. And I've said this numerous times, but I think the folks who both cover this, the folks who are here, and maybe those out there listening, Monica's the person who connects just about everything around housing, around kids. I am convinced if you needed to have your home redecorated, you would call Monica and she would make sure that it happened. She understands how to get things done. And I said this team of folks who are here, so inspiring to go into the computer lab here, to see modern technology, to see a young man, Malachi, putting himself to reading, telling folks here he wants to learn how to read better, and a community volunteer on their lunch hour here tutoring. That's what Minnesota offers. That's what we do right. And I'm just here grateful to highlight this work, and I think to talk to folks about this is the type of initiative, and again, Monica will say this to you. I think when you hear lack of access to broadband, people think Greater Minnesota, because that is an issue in Greater Minnesota, but it's an issue right where we're standing. This 80-year-old building did not have access to Wi-Fi. It did not have access to free citywide Wi-Fi, and the kids who came here did not have access to it until Connected Minnesota and the folks who put this together made it happen. So this is great. I'm here to say thank you. It's exciting in there. It is what Minnesota does best. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you Andrea Wood, Vice President at Best Buy, and their Head of Social Impact. Don't worry, Hannah May, I'm introducing you.
Thank you. So I'm really excited to be here today because this is a project that a lot of people have put a lot of energy and time into. We're proud today to be able to announce that we are issuing more than 20 grants to reach around 70,000 kids, both here in Twin Cities as well as Greater Minnesota. This will make a huge difference because we know that educational disparities in the state are much greater than what we'd like to see, especially between kids of color, low-income students, and indigenous population. So these grants are really meant to meet the highest needs possible to try to get to the students who really, we don't want to leave them behind. It's so important to continue their education, and it's not just now during COVID, but it's also after that. We know that more than 80% of the jobs in the future, both now and in the future, are going to require tech skills. And if we don't give kids the access, the training, the opportunity to learn tech skills, to continue their education, we're leaving an entire population behind that we can't afford to leave behind. So again, really excited about what we're able to do. We are continuing to raise money through the corporate partnership and the private foundation partnerships for ConnectedMN. So if anyone wants to help us, you can go on to our website to check out how to help us. But we know the need is much greater than the more than $2 million we're providing in grants today, and we will continue to work on this issue. So I want to thank all of our partners, Comcast, Business Partnership, Landon, St. Paul, and Minnesota Foundation, and then all of the private foundations and corporate partners who have been contributing to this effort. We wouldn't be here today without their support. So without further ado, I want to introduce Monica Nilsson, who is the Executive Director for Haven Housing, to talk about what the grant means to them. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon. If you want to ensure student success, children must have access to Wi-Fi. Though some might understand challenges to internet access in greater Minnesota, as the governor mentioned, they may not realize that even north of 394, there is no free city access to Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi may not be available to students who are low income, indigenous, or students of color. For families staying in shelter with Haven Housing, the support of the Connected Minnesota Partnership is literally the hardwire between our kids and a chance to keep up. This is a time when people with even the best resources in our state face isolation, uncertainty, and fear of the unknown. On behalf of the kids who sleep here each night, I want to thank those who are making the investments in this partnership. Where are you? So what does it look like in a tutoring lab at a homeless shelter during a pandemic, you might ask? Access to Wi-Fi in a building that didn't have it this spring. Noise-canceling headphones to drown out the sounds of living with dozens of other people. A laptop computer to check out and take to your sleeping room. And a lap table or portable desk on which to do your homework. For Minnesota's homeless kids, those with the fewest resources, this help is the difference between COVID can't and COVID can. We are grateful for your help. And with that, I'd like to introduce Cheryl.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Ladd, and I'm happy to have this opportunity to share the impact of Haven Housing with you with the support of Connected Minnesota grants for families like mine. I have 2 school-age children in the Anoka-Hennepin district. They are currently at school because they have a hybrid model, and they are transported to Champlin every day for that reason. That's when they were enrolled when we lost their housing, and so my kids get to be able to stay in their own school, which is nice. Other days I'm their teacher. It's hard. It's being made easier by the technology that's given to us, that's provided to us. Well, there's a tutoring lab. Students can't enter it like they did before COVID because you can't have so many people in a smaller room that's here. So learning happens in our rooms. With the purchase of laptops, noise-canceling headphones, webcams to connect with tutors or teachers, and even portable tables, my kids have a better chance of keeping up with everything at school. I'm living with MS. I'm also seeking affordable housing for my family. This has been a difficult time, but the ability to connect to teachers and tutors and everything else makes all the difference in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl's a story of so many Minnesotans, and during COVID, folks who would have never imagined the hardships they would face, it came upon them. But through community, through collaboration, through compassion, and through vision, we're able to provide that. I want to give a special thank you to our partners in the Minnesota Legislature. Representative Yochim is here. We appreciate the work that they've done, and just the dignity that it gives to families, the dignity and the chance that it gives to they're our future, and that's not just a cliche, it's a fact, and it does all of us, this investment they're making benefits all of Minnesota. So we're grateful. We've got more work to do, but this story at St. Anne's is a story of Minnesota, and it's working. With that, we'll take a few topics on topic.
Why don't we do, let's do a couple on-topic questions, and then we'll just invite the folks that are all up here. You don't have to stand behind the governor for off-topic, so if press need him afterwards, we'll bring that.
Governor, how, and maybe somebody from Best Buy or somebody can answer this, how are you going to connect the people in need with the services that you're going to help fund? Like, I know how it's coming here, but what about other people? How do you connect?
Yeah, so we've invited partners from across the state and in the Twin Cities to apply for grants. So this first round of grants is going out, which is over $2 million. But we're continuing to fundraise, and so as we fundraise, as we get more dollars in the door, we'll continue to do outreach to our community partners.
And Andrea, those are organizations that are connected to the people, so the people can go into their local community, like Minnesota Valley Action Center or whoever.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So we're working with community partners who are helping to support distance learning for kids across the state. Also, Best Buy and other partners are offering tech support, so we're also trying to help as folks are getting their laptops, their internet, all of that, help them get connected and make sure that everything's working and supported.
And just as a follow-up, so it's not just for facilities like this where there might be multiple users, but can an individual family that lives in a home, can they get access?
Only through organizations. So we're working with to grant organizations who are serving multiple families as a way to try to spread our reach across the state.
Thank you.
I think it's a good question Tom asked. It's not reinvented. We know the partnership of being together, and a lot of those organizations have dealt in their communities. But I think your question is good. If there's a family struggling, whether they're in housing, they can use those organizations. Coming into the organization, then we'll issue it as a sub-grant for them.
Because I'm sure you're concerned, as many people are, that the gap in education between students of color and white students is going to grow even larger with the lack of access
it's inevitable.
That so many people of color have.
Yeah, it's inevitable because COVID is hitting disproportionately. If this thing was equal across the spectrum and we saw a drop-off in education, you would see an equal drop-off amongst white students as you would see black, brown, and indigenous. But you're absolutely right. Because it's hitting more disproportionately in those communities, it will go more. So this is an advantage that we've had 6 months to think about it. It was folks early on making that happen, and certainly it's not the best situation, but as communities have to move into a distant learning, we certainly don't want to leave anybody behind.
Any other on-topic?
Let me thank you folks, and I'll take any others you have. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want me to pull this on?
Sure. Yeah, we can class while the governor.
Sure.
Governor, today a federal judge said he was leaning toward keeping the mask mandate in place. If courts don't take it away, how long do Minnesotans realistically think the mandate will be?
Yeah, we keep coming back to this, and I know the people want to know. I'll tell you, I want to know. I wished I could pick a date and this thing were over. It's dependent on where we are in the virus. Again, I'm like